Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. This is Tom Uteg with VoIP Supply, and we are joined today by Jessica and Todd from Sangoma. As you can see, the title, 5 Reasons to Use Sangoma Switchvox in Education. A lot of great reasons they're going to go over, some really nice bullet points. They're going to be able to help you drive business towards Sangoma when talking to the education vertical. Some of the reseller benefits here of VoIP supplies, I'm sure most of you are familiar. If you're not, we do have our VoIP rental program, hardware and provisioning. Hardware and provisioning kind of goes hand in hand right with our fulfillment offerings, where you can get product provisioned and blind shipped to your customers directly through our fulfillment program, or you can just do it without enrolling in our actual fulfillment program and just place a one-off order. Say you wanted something provisioned, you don't normally drop ship, but you just need to do it to get it there in spite of time. So we can do that for you. We have our Cloud Span Marketplace where you can get on board with service providers such as Switchvox Cloud or SipStation from Sangoma and resell those services, making MRR accrue for yourself, which in turn will give you residual commissions, as well as another incentive. Doing it through VoIP Supply, you will get a rebate on any and all hardware you buy for those projects. And a good way to save some money or make some money is our refresh and reclaim. We do take back select voice over IP hardware in our reclaim program, where we will pay you money for said hardware, and you can make a little bit of cash that way. We also have our refresh line, which is the refurbished side of our voice over IP hardware that we carry. It's just a good way to save money if you have a client who wants a specific phone, and maybe they don't want to pay full retail price. They're looking for something a little bit cheaper. You can get the same thing a lot cheaper with our refresh product. And our refresh product comes with a full 1-year warranty, just like most manufacturers would give on a new product. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Todd and Jessica. And as I said, if you do have any questions, please use our Q&A feature down in the lower right-hand corner, and we will address all questions at the end of the webinar. Take it away, Todd.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. So on the agenda today, not much. We're going to give a brief overview of who Sangoma is for those of you that are not familiar with us. Also going to tell you a little bit about both Jessica and myself. We will then go into the top 5 reasons why schools and universities, colleges, anyone in education is choosing Switchvox as the solution they put in. We'll do a little bit of Q&A, and then we do have those 3 gift cards we're going to give away at the end. We'll do a drawing. Anyone that is logged in now and stays till the end, we will do the drawing for the 3 right at the end. So who is Sangoma, right? So I get asked that quite a bit. I actually started working here back in 2016, but I actually sold my first Sangoma product sometime in 2005. Sold my first Switchvox system actually in 2006. And a lot of times folks will go, well, why don't I know about you guys? And look at this stuff here. You guys have over 350 people worldwide as far as employees, 130 million in revenue. 2 reasons for that. One, the only thing we do is telephony, telecom, phone systems. We are not like some of the other players in the marketplace where we have our hand in a little bit of everything. And 2, the average phone system is only good for maybe 10 years. So you're only replacing it once every 10 years, and you're probably calling the same guy or same group of guys or company that you called before who's still selling the outdated proprietary system that they have been selling since the 80s. But as you'll see as we go through these slides, we're a force to be reckoned with what I would consider the best value in unified communications in the industry. So presenting with me today is Jessica Campus. She is our channel and product marketing manager here. Before she was in marketing, she was also in our sales team. She has done lots of demos. She's done quite a few webinars with me as well. And I found out today that she's a Parrot Head member. Kind of shocked there, Jess, but that's we have a lot to talk about after this this webinar. And then for me, do you want to say hi, or do you want to wait until we get to your slides?
I'll wait. You sail right on ahead, Todd.
Awesome. So, like I mentioned, I've been here 5 years. I've been selling Sangoma and Switchvox solutions for way too long. And fun fact about me, you look up dadbot in the dictionary, I'm actually in it. Not really, but I probably should be. I'm working on it. COVID, the last year has not helped. So that you have a brief overview of Sangoma, brief overview of who's presenting today. You know, when I started here 5 years ago, so that would have been 2016, I think I was employee number 70. We had $27 million in sales. In the last 5 years, obviously, that growth has taken off. A lot of it is, of course, natural growth. Some of it is also from acquisitions as well. We had certain things missing in our portfolio, and we've added to it so we can provide customers with a complete solution. So even though today we're going to be talking about Switchvox and how you can deploy it, whether it's in the cloud, on your own premises, or even in your own private cloud, we have services and products around the total solution. And again, it's all telecom and telephony. And if you look us up, we're publicly traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange. We've been around since '84. We've been profitable pretty much that whole time. And you can see we're certainly not going anywhere, and we're just going to continue to grow due to our award-winning products. So who actually depends on our products? Companies all over the world, big and small. Of course, you know, like any other company that presents something like this, we show the ones you know because they're bigger companies. But our bread and butter is education and small and medium businesses and enterprises. Ironically, on here, you'll probably see a lot of our competitors. They actually do depend on our solutions to provide customers solutions on a daily basis. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the education customers coming up here. And I believe, Jess, you want, we're going to go over 5 different reasons, and I am doing the first one here. But before I go into that, we're going to talk about some of the larger education customers we have. Missing from here that I can think of is Phoenix Union. I'm trying to remember how many phones that was. It was like 2,000 or 3,000. But we have more than just, you know, individual schools going with us. We have large metro, you know, entire school districts that are deploying these solutions. And from what I remember from Phoenix Union, they actually put it in a private cloud with our phones, and we're able to provide service to every school and every building within the district. So top 5 reasons, and we're going to go over all 5. You can shrink your budget. This is both upfront. This is with ongoing cost by utilizing new technologies like SIP or voice over IP, as well as some of those bloated support contracts you see from Avaya or NEC or Cisco. Folks love the efficiency improvements that we can provide for their staff. Those efficiency improvements allow them to focus on what they do best, which is educating and taking care of students. And this next one probably should have been number 1, but security and safety. all of that inside and out of the classroom. It's paramount here in North America, keeping our kids safe. A lot of modern features people don't realize they need. You'll see as we go into that, but the first one I can think of is every school I've ever talked to, there are cell phone dead spots in the school, but there's Wi-Fi everywhere, and being able to leverage something like our mobile soft phone in order to be easily reachable, whether you're a principal, admin staff, janitorial staff, in those dead zones, is stuff you can easily take advantage of. And then lastly, future-proof. And that future-proofing kind of loops around back to number one there and shrinking the budget. And that you'll see that this may actually and can be the last phone system your district will ever need. So unlike a lot of our proprietary competitors, we don't nickel and dime you, right? Like, we don't go, hey, you want feature A? That's great, we have an add-on for that. One of the most frustrating things I see in this industry is you get a quote, or in a lot of cases, if you're a school, you put out your RFP, you get stuff back, and then you get to the part where you're looking through the part numbers and what people are quoting, and like your head just spins. And it's like, well, what's this? What's that? Google searching it is a huge pain in the butt, right? Because the part numbers are never seriously easy. It's always a long number with numbers, letters, and then you look it up and you still have no idea what it's for. And we simplify that, but we include all features. So everything you're going to see today, as far as features, we're not going to get really granular. We're just doing an overview here, but know that all features are included with our system, and that's regardless of how you deploy it. So unlike a lot of our competitors, our cloud and our on-premise solution are the same thing. It's not different software. It's not a different interface. You're going to get the same thing regardless of how you deploy it, and the same features regardless of how you deploy it. And if you keep up to date on your support contracts, which are not that expensive when you compare it to the rest of the industry, not only does that get you support, that's going to get you new features. So as we go from version, I believe we're on 7.6.3 to version 8, you come along with us. And if you're in the cloud, you don't even have to worry about it. It just happens. And of course, the solution is flexible and scalable. So if you're in a growing district or a growing university or college, you know, you're able to scale that up or scale things down fairly easily. Now, one of the things we end up talking to people a lot about is existing equipment, existing analog lines. I actually was in a college in a basement where I have never seen so much copper in my life, just all of the stuff coming in, old Nortel systems. My head almost exploded, and that was just the incoming phone lines. And then you've got to start to think of things like emergency phones, emergency systems, paging equipment. You know, so if currently you want to stick with a T1 PRI or analog line, you can absolutely do that. We have different ways of integrating those with our systems. You know, at the end of the day, especially what's happened with tax bases and things of that nature in the last year, if you're in a situation where you need to change your phone system this year, you know, you're definitely looking at what's going to save you the most money. And, you know, we can help you do that and make those decisions. You know, if you reach out to the folks at VoIP Supply, they can get us on a phone call with you, and we can go through stuff and actually figure out what's going to be the best fit. If you have existing analog paging equipment, we can very easily integrate with that. You don't have to rewire it for Ethernet. There are various different ways in which you can reuse it, so it doesn't have to go anywhere. And before I go into a cost savings example, one thing I want to point out is if you're using a T1 or analog lines and you put in one of our gateways, one of the things you can do, and I'll see this I don't want to say rural, but outside of a metro city, but I've seen it in metro areas too. But typically, if there is just a grammar school, middle school, or junior high school, whatever you want to call it, a high school, and those are the 3 buildings, 99% of the time, everyone wants to consolidate to one phone system, and it's going to be in the high school. Just seems to be more bandwidth there, all sorts of stuff. But folks have concerns, what if the fiber link in between my buildings goes down? What if internet goes down, my SD-WAN, or however you're connecting things? This gateway, and if you want to learn more, reach out to Tom or the folks at VoIP Supply, and we can sit down and go through a presentation and discuss how this works. But our phones will traverse through these gateways that you can keep on site. So you put the phone system in the high school, and you put a gateway with a couple analog lines in the grammar school, one in the junior high school or middle school, whatever you're calling it. And that internet connection breaks down. From a safety and security perspective, those phones will be registered and working through this gateway. So you can still call each other on an extension-to-extension basis. You can still get calls in, either on the T1 or analog lines, but most importantly, in that situation, if somebody needs to call 911, those calls can go out.
And sorry to interrupt, Todd, but if somebody does really have any questions on that, it's a great failover solution. I actually had a large school district out in Colorado who did this across their school district with over 1,200 phones deployed with a whole bunch of buildings. And they actually did have an internet outage and failed over and were still able to communicate. So they haven't done a case study with us, but they are a great resource, and I can get you in touch with their IT department to even talk to you further on how they did it if you think that that's something you want to do in your school district.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. By the way, the Frederick Berg school cost, we'll be talking about that in a couple of slides, not right after this one. We will be talking, though, about efficiency improvements for faculty and staff. And I believe, Jess, this is where you wanted to take over.
Yeah, I'm happy to take over wherever. I'm so excited. I know that this sounds cheesy, guys, but this is an exciting industry for us to talk about because, like Todd said at the beginning, it really is one at the forefront of the industries that we serve. Like, schools really are our specialty, and it's fun to do demos for them. It's fun to sell to them because they can customize so many different things. So one thing I want to talk about is Switchvox. Yes, by definition, it is a business phone system. And yes, it does serve the needs of call centers out there and, the types of businesses that need that functionality. But, switchboards aren't just for call centers. It is a front office receptionist at a school's best friend. And I know this from working, I know this was ages ago, but back in high school, I was the front office desk assistant. Like, I feel like we all had that period our senior year where you were like a teacher's assistant and you ran errands for them because you pretty much had everything you needed to graduate. I worked the front desk, and I remember how painful it was to see the receptionist. And this was a small rural high school, I should mention. This wasn't like a big school district, but just a small rural high school example. It would have had around 600 extensions, not many. But every time the receptionist had to step away to go pick up a kid from class because they had a doctor's appointment and their parent was there to check them out, if the phone rang, people were coming out of the treasury office or the vice principal's having to come out of her office to answer the front desk. And a simple overflow rule with a ring all queue strategy would have solved that. And by definition, yes, that's a call center feature, but it fit this situation perfectly. And could I have fast forwarded, 10, 15 years. I wish I could bring the technology back to the senior year Jessica that's sitting there and say, hey, look at this awesome phone system that would have solved, major issues and wouldn't have disrupted your day. And back in the day, and even because like Todd said, people only replace their phone system like every 10 or 15 years. So there are still schools out there that have these antiquated systems that don't have the visibility that a Switchvox phone system would offer. So being able to see where a teacher is, if they're available or not on a switchboard, or let's take the switchboard away, even on Sangoma's line of phones, there's active statuses that would solve that. Teachers can manage their presence, let everyone in the school know where they are, what their class is doing by setting notifications. And we put just a couple features on the slide to show you, like the presence and status. That flows over to the mobile soft phone. So for the PE teacher that's going from the classroom to the gymnasium or to the football field or to the track, because seasonally that's what you did, is you take your kids where they go run a mile for their PE class or something like that. They can take their extension with them. So if there was a family emergency, or if there was a fire drill or something happened, they always have a connection to the front office. They could set status as, for example, out to recess, testing in progress, do not disturb, in the cafeteria, and they can personalize those call rules. Schools can also maintain a professional appearance by setting their IVR up. So they say they want to keep it friendly and have people answer, which is great. And you could still do that with IVRs. You can have announcements play during your music on hold and say, we have the fall festival coming up next week. We're looking for parent volunteers. Please let us know if you can volunteer. They could do something like that with their music on hold. And that's just a handful. Remember, guys, all features are included with Switchvox. So this is really just a handful of those efficient advanced features that can benefit these schools. All right. So I mentioned mobility, and Todd had told you that when you sign on with Sangoma and you sell a Switchvox system, you better buckle up, because you're going to be getting all the new features that we come out with. And Sangoma Connect is an example of one of those brand new features. So it is our new and improved mobile soft phone. It also works on your desktop, which is awesome. So if a teacher is sitting at their desk during their planning period, they can actually use their computer, or they could use their desk phone as their method of communicating. And everything ties together. Your desk phone, your soft phone, your mobile phone, it's all the same. And a couple examples that we have of that, like I said, the front office staff, that receptionist, Miss Dean, was ours. She could take her mobile phone with her down the hallway and still answer calls at the front desk. School resource officer, and we'll talk about security here in a second. SROs, they're always patrolling the halls. Ours was like doing laps around the hallway in between classes, because if you went to the restroom, you'd almost always bump into them. They want to know where you're going, where your hall pass is. So if something was to go awry, you have someone that has a constant line of communication. SMS is a new feature that we have available with Switchvox. It works in the cloud. It works on-prem when you tack on SipStation, which is our SIP trunking service. So that would be a great way that you could relay a simple message from your mobile app. You can literally text each other, and it's just a great way to stay connected. Principal and admin staff, they can, observe classrooms district-wide. I put this here, think of a superintendent. I mean, we were in the district of Nashville, Tennessee, if you can't tell from the accent, sorry about that. And, our superintendent, they were traveling from, Nashville all the way down to southern middle Tennessee, all over the district. And he could stay connected to the district office. He could call a principal if there was a fight or something happened at another school. They needed to escalate that to a superintendent. Having a mobile app like this allows you to be in multiple places at once and allows you to communicate to everyone at one time. It's fantastic. And I had also given the example of PE recess teachers. Think about field trips. I mean, I know allergies are such a more real thing now, I feel, than it was in the past, and it's dangerous. And there's kids that need EpiPens. There's kids that need oxygen. Being out on a field trip, you don't have the convenience of being in the classroom, being near what you know. It would be wonderful to be able to empower your teachers to communicate more efficiently with a mobile app when they're out on a field trip. They can call, a parent, they can call the school nurse, they can, get that information that they need immediately as if they were right there in the comfort of their classroom. And they're doing all this, communicating with parents while remaining hidden from the parent world. The last thing a teacher wants to do is give their personal phone number or a principal, God forbid, to a student's parents, because then they're going to bother you at all day of the all hours of the night. And having the mobile app, it allows you to use your device, but it appears as if you're calling from your work extension. So it gives the teachers and the staff members there a sense of privacy, and they can maintain that appearance no matter where they go. This is even more convenient in today's remote working environment. Like, there's teachers that are still working from home because of the pandemic, and they can still maintain a work-like appearance even though they're working from their dining room table.
And you know what I was thinking, Jess? That's actually probably almost as important. Actually, it's probably more important than keeping the phone number hidden. If I get a phone call from someone in the same area code and it's not a contact,
yes,
or showing something I know, I go, yeah, I don't need to extend the warranty on my car, and I send it to voicemail. And you mentioned EpiPen, things that can happen, whether in school or on field trips. If that call shows that it's coming from the school, I'm going to pick it up, right?
Exactly.
Unless it's my parents, because my parents were probably going, he's in trouble again. But I would say the majority of kids, are going to go, why is the school calling me? That's not good, and pick it up.
That's funny. No, that's a fantastic example. I mean, that's important. And then I'll pitch it back to you, Todd, to talk about security and safety. I mean, you were just saying how important that is. And I feel like safety, the mobile app goes a long way, but security is really the number one concern of everyone this day and age, unfortunately.
Exactly. And, one of the things that's great about our system is it's based on open standards. So you may not be familiar with SIP. It stands for Session Initiated Protocol, which told you nothing additional with me just saying that. What you need to know about it is it's a protocol that allows our equipment to talk to equipment from other manufacturers. So it doesn't have to just be phones. It could be SIP service, which is when you talk voice over IP, the majority of that is going to use SIP. But then it also talks about the ancillary items that are needed to run a school. The school is not, in this case, tying things into the phone system is not just phone lines, a phone system, and phones. Every school now has door ringers and buzzers to get in, and you don't want a separate system for that. You want to tie it into the device that's at the front office people's desk. And whether you are doing a new build, you're doing a refurbish, or you've already got something there, you can either put in a SIP dedicated device or a SIP device that will enable that existing stuff to work with our phone system. Same is true for bell and speaker systems, and there's IP cameras. When you were mentioning, Jessica, about the resource officer and security walking around, I would venture a guess that maybe half of the folks on the call today, I wish we had a polling capability, but they probably have IP cameras for that now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the security resource officer, their Apple Watch tells them to stand up, and they're like, I'll go do a lap around the school. But then there's also I think of the old school buildings I was in, and I can't imagine the nightmare it would be to run wiring just for those cameras.
Yeah.
Which is why using a system like ours that can work with SIP and can easily integrate with that older stuff or any newer stuff is so key, right? You're not tied into proprietary protocols from like a Cisco or NEC that limit you to only certain things. With SIP being such a industry-wide standard now, there's so many manufacturers for all different types of devices you can tie in.
Yeah, that quick alert that we had mentioned down there, they're just one example. I know back when I was in sales, Kevin Brown, who's I have to see if he's still over there because it's been a minute, but he was quick alert was something that is an example of a third party, people tied in with Switchvox, and it kind of it fulfills something that Switchvox may not have natively, like being able to send text messages out to parents, people that it's one thing to be able to send text messages to the faculty and staff, but if there was, these horrible examples we all see on the news of events that happen like shootings or tornadoes or something, being able to broadcast a message out to the parents, letting them know like your kids are safe, please come pick them up early or something like that. This is just another service that can tie in to kind of notify people outside of the school district, if you will.
Yeah, and the other nice thing is it gives you such a broad range of choice for those other things. Mm-hmm. Instead of, hey, here's the one or two that work with our solution and they may not fit your needs completely, whether that's from a feature perspective, price perspective, what have you. You have a much broader depth of things you can get access to and truly actually find something that meets your needs. Mm-hmm. As it relates to that stuff. And then we do have our own phones. They're based on SIP. And again, if you have interest in this stuff, you're going to reach out to Tom or your sales rep at VoIP Supply, and we can do a personalized demo. But one of the nice things about our phones, besides the fact it's very easy for us to tie it into our phone system for easy setup and management and things of that nature, is we also have apps on the phones. So just like your iPhone, to simplify things as opposed to having to put in complicated feature codes or things like that to enable something. If you want to see your voicemail, you can just see that using the voicemail app. You want to see something else, you can do that. You can also tie in custom alerts and another manufacturer called Bell Commander, who they can control you can automate your entire Bell system and utilize not only any existing overhead paging or intercom systems, but also integrate our phones as well. So we did have, I forget how many years ago this was now, but we did have, in Wisconsin, the school districts there, like a lot of school districts, it's a juggling act as to what you're going to spend money on and be up to date on versus what's going to be outdated. And of course, the phone system isn't something that necessarily fully impacts your role as educators. So a lot of times it ends up outdated, and you miss a lot of the modern features you're going to get with a solution like Switchvox, but it also can cause security holes as well. And the state of Wisconsin realized that, and they earmarked some funding so that schools would be able to get up to date and be on par across the state as it related to the security guidelines they were providing to districts. And based on the fact that we are standards-based open architecture, I'll talk a little bit more about what that means towards the end here. But the fact that things were modern, they were flexible, easily to update. You can not know much about a phone system, and I can give you like, hey, here's how you log into your Switchvox. You log in as an admin, you click here, it'll tell you if there's an update, and you can choose to apply it. It'll give you some options, because obviously you don't want to do that during the middle of a school day while people might be on the phone. But if you can click, you can very easily update this system. But most importantly, as it related to security with these schools, they were able to take things like Quick Alert, Bell Commander, and a lot of times people are doing stuff with our solutions that putting other manufacturers stuff on that we're not even aware of, and we'll find out like years later, like, oh, you're doing what? That's really, really cool, and I wish I even knew that product existed, because I would have been letting more of our customers know, like, hey, there's this option here for you to help you secure your building, your employees, and your students as well. So Jess, do you want to talk a little bit about all those modern features and how they can help these folks?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I like to point out is that schools are modernizing and they don't realize it. They think when you get down to the table and you're presenting this phone system, they're like, we don't need that. We don't need that. Like I was telling you earlier, and they don't realize that they'll benefit from these. So they're already modernizing with tablets. Like back in the day with me, you had your Trapper Keeper and you're like taking notes with a big old textbook that's like 4 inches thick. And, now kids have smart boards and tablets and laptops, and that's what they're using. And the IT personnel are having to embrace that and just jump in wholeheartedly and figure it out. And so having something that's easy to manage, it takes one less thing off them. And so this is one of the things is they're going to get these modern features, but it's going to give those IT people a break, because they're not going to be having to worry about managing the phone system. So, why let your phone system fall behind is what I like to ask. Embrace these new modern features so, you are able to set yourself up for success down the road. Voicemail to email, for the times when teachers are, teaching, they can't take the call, for example. That is always something that they realize, oh yeah, that would be great, because they could put that they're teaching a class and, they can have the notification go to their inbox. Conferencing, or even now video conferencing with Switchvox. It's great for parent-teacher conferences. And it's so funny because 2 years ago when we're talking about education, they're like, oh, well, parent-teacher conferences is something you do in person. Well, that's not what they did last year. I guess we can all attest to that. It's all been virtual, right? So, they can have a video conference with a teacher. It's private. It's on the phone system if they can't do it in person. Hopefully in the near future, when things get to go back to what we like to consider normal, that will still be a part of technology that we embrace regardless. Once kids are back in school, I still think that conferencing and video conferencing is going to be a staple. And then, like I said, teachers customizing a status to let people know where they're going in the cafeteria, or if they're given a test, they can do that from their mobile app. They can do it from their computer. They can actually do it from their desk phone. I feel like all teachers have that phone that's like hanging off the wall by the door, and that's like where they take their calls, or maybe it's on their desk, so they can do it wherever they are, quickly change their status. Hey, we're doing one of our final exams for our seniors, so that's where we are. Admins, like I said, all features included with Switchvox, but ease of use, easy to manage. I put on here recording and reporting. Again, it's a call center feature, but schools have to keep record of sensitive conversations that they have. There is a whole labyrinth of legality that they have to navigate, and giving the admin staff the ability to record or report and show, in fact, this teacher did call this parent and they did talk to them for 25 minutes. They did not just leave a voicemail, or this parent did call in, this teacher did not follow up, this staff member did not follow up. They have the tools they need to hold their staff accountable, and that is very, very important. I guess we can all agree. And then it's standards based. We have an API that can be very fun for admins to play around and integrate in those third-party products. Like we said, Quick Alert, Bell Commander, there's so many different things. And the fact that we're not an uptight proprietary system, yes, we have our own phones. Yes, we have our own gateways. Yes, we have SIP trunking. We have SBCs. We have an entire UC suite, but we leave that door open to allow integrators and IT personnel the freedom to integrate what they need to. And then the last thing I want to talk about is office staff. I already gave you the example of poor Miss Dean who's having to run down the hall and the vice principal's having to answer all her front desk calls when she should be doing her own stuff. Having calls roll over and utilizing call queues and ring all groups can be a combination of desks is a lifesaver, and it gets teachers on the phone with the parents faster. So it's going to keep people happy. The switchboard is the most modern and useful feature of all. Every single teacher can have one. I'll be honest, when I did demos, not all of them necessarily wanted it, but having the option of it there was nice. The front office staff definitely required it. Once they saw it, they were like, I can't go back. And, pop-up messages, you could be in a completely different browser working on a presentation. You're the principal and you're about to go into a staff meeting after hours with, all the faculty and staff, but then you get a pop-up message when you have a voicemail. You get a pop-up message on your browser that someone's chatting you or a call's coming in. It's modern, and that's just an example of showing that, we're continuing to change with the times. And then I also put on there, of course, mobility, hiding your cell phone number after hours. It's a lifesaver. So.
I think before we go into these last few slides, everyone on the call today wants to know, Jessica, that Trapper Keeper, was it Lisa Frank? That what
it
you had?
Was. Does that show my age at all? It was the what is it, the rainbow leopards that they had. It was those. I like those. It was. So thank you for aging me. I appreciate that, Todd.
You're a lot younger than I am.
I believe my sister had that same one, Jessica.
Wonderful, Tom. Thank you. We're kindred spirits and we don't know it. Frederick Berg Primary School, they were another great example of that, Todd. I didn't know if you wanted to elaborate on them or if you wanted me to.
No, you're on a roll. Keep going.
Well, this is a school that really loved and embraced those modern features that we were just talking about. They were a larger than average primary school. They served, an inner city diverse community, in the UK, and they had over 720 students on roll. They opened way back in 1905, so they are, a really old school that had to deal with the infrastructure of an old school, like Todd was saying. I mean, I don't think any of us wants to be drilling holes through those concrete bricks and walls and trying to run lines. So, they wanted to embrace those features, but they were stuck with, the legacy infrastructure that unfortunately a lot of schools are. So they had to keep up, with the running cost of their legacy lines, upgrade the phone system. It wasn't effective. So they needed something easy to manage and deploy, and in stepped in Switchvox. So, they were able to get the features that they needed. They did a lot of research. You can read about this in our case study. These are all on Sangoma's website, but the IT council, they came together and decided that we want the modern features, but we can't pay what these big companies are. We need this at an affordable price. We need rich functionality at something we can afford. And that's what they got with Switchvox. They got that voicemail to email, the click to dial, the conferencing, being anonymous, the mobile apps, but they all got it at a bargain price. And they knew that this would last, the test of time. So it really was an all in all fantastic solution. They integrated what they needed to, kept some of those analog lines, throw on some SIP, save money, and future-proof, the entire school there.
Speaking of future-proof, I'm taking this from you because this gets me excited. Sadly, but it gets me excited because just if you have an old PBX and you were to take it apart, all you would see is that it's a computer, a laptop, it's a server, but every piece from the memory to the hard drive to the motherboard to the processor is custom made, and doesn't necessarily get you more or better features. What it gets you is a higher upfront price tag, and even worse, a higher post-sale price tag, right? You know, you start to get towards the end of life on it, or you want to replace the hard drive because all of a sudden, you know, you need more room for voicemail, and you've been to Best Buy, you've seen that you can get a several terabyte hard drive for, you know, under $100, and you know, you hear back, well, you know, it's going to cost you a couple $1,000. That it just drives me insane that happens. We make hardware. We make lots of different hardware, but at our core, we consider ourselves a software company. And you know, as it relates to things like our servers, if you were to go premise-based with us, most school districts are in one of our larger hardware platforms, and those are made by Dell. There's nothing proprietary about it. You can even go so far as to get additional Dell service on it. So if you wanted Dell to come out there and replace one of the hard drives, have it under a service contract, you absolutely can do that. No big forklift upgrades. So this is what I refer to as having to replace the whole thing, or even worse, Franken systems, where you've got to put all these cards and things in the back if you want to add on features in the future. You know, upgrades are a click, 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 you're done. And the best part is, you know, let's say you start today on a premise-based system, and 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now, you guys have your own cloud infrastructure. You're part of some sort of group that gives you access to one. You can then migrate everything over there, or you can even very easily migrate it to our cloud. So it's called public cloud, which kind of makes it sound like it's just available to anyone. It's very secure, our hosted PBX service. But you know, moving between the three is not that difficult of a proposition. So as your needs change, as hardware gets outdated, you back up our software, you back up your configuration, and you move to a new piece of hardware, and you reload it, and you're done. And all you're out is the cost of a new server in this case, right? So 10 years from now, instead of having to change everything, change out phones, change out this, have in-service instruction to teach people how to use the new phone system, you guys upgrade your hardware or upgrade the private cloud and back it up, restore it, move on. So as I've said, this truly can be the last phone system you guys ever have to buy. So before we move on and start to wrap all of this up, anything you want to add, Jess?
Yeah, like you had said, it's cloud, prem, virtual, mix and match, you know, back up in one, throw it in another, which the flexibility is something I think that really stands out. And then, you know, we do have an entire UC suite. We had showed here the switchboard, the soft phones. We have a variety of desk phones, from the very small ones that go into the classrooms to the big old ones with the, you know, touch screen interface, or the sidecars you want on the receptionist front desk or in an admin office, the mobile apps, and then of course the hardware. Like, you know, Tom, you were saying a great redundancy story is, you know, have those analog or PRI lines. If they want to hang on to it, great. Throw a gateway in there, get some SIP trunking, have some backup. That's probably one of the more popular deployment methods, because redundancy is so important. And SBCs on there to protect the system. I mean, all this is coming from one vendor. That means you have one person to yell at in tech support. You know what I mean? Like, you're not having to go to, like Todd had said perfectly, a Franken system where you have 4 different vendors that make up one solution. Your phones are supported by a different vendor. There's systems coming from one. You have just one vendor that has everything seamlessly working together. And our support has less than 2-minute hold time. And you, as the partner, you get to decide, like, who do you want to go to? Do you want to call direct? Do you want your customer to call in? You get to customize this. So that's kind of what I wanted to just say is everyone.
To kind of piggyback on what you just said there, Jessica, I think the importance too is in even choosing VoIP supply as your source for this equipment to make your purchase. We are owned by Sangoma. They are our parent company, so we are a family of companies, and we add basically another layer to Sangoma where if you do have an issue and say for some weird, crazy reason you can't get in touch with somebody at Digium, I have no problem pinging and yelling at Todd to get somebody on the horn for you. He can attest to that.
I love that. That is true. And also, like, I think it's fair to say, like, with the third-party stuff that does need to be tied in, like, we don't make ATA adapters. There's a lot of things that you want to tie in, and you guys have the access to the other vendors that, you know, complement a Sangoma solution so perfectly. And you are lined up to make those recommendations, you know, to your partners. Like, okay, well, Sangoma can cover 90% of it, but you want to use that old paging equipment? Yeah, we'll recommend these ATA adapters. We'll recommend, you know, insert product here to make it a complete solution. And that's something that, I mean, it makes it extremely valuable for everyone here.
Well, with that being said, I'm going to move. We've got the Q&A and then the giveaway of the gift cards. So, Tom, if you have access to the any questions that have come in thus far.
I do. So we do have a question from Wes Ferguson. Question is, can the Sangoma Connect app coexist with Cisco Jabber on the same device?
Yeah. Now, it wouldn't be able to coexist as, actually, I don't think you can't use Jabber with Switchvox anymore. But if you wanted to coexist, it would be like any other communications app coexisting on your phone. You know, I know for myself, I have several, everything from Skype Business to Slack to my mobile to Google Meet to Sangoma Meet to Sangoma Connect. So you absolutely could.
Yeah, we just had another quick question just pop up here for you, Todd. From Rick, asks, are apps available outside the Google Apple Store? So I'm assuming if you're asking, Rick, if they're available outside of those sources, like if you could download it on a computer or something like that, if you could be a little bit more clear in your question.
Yeah, I know.
Go ahead. No, I had someone message me. I was going to answer the question out loud because I thought it was worth saying. About support for third-party desk sets. So anything SIP standards based does work with Switchvox. Our own line of D-series phones, that of course is going to have the tightest integration where you can see presence and status and all of that other good stuff. So we do offer the tightest integration with our own line, obviously, because it's the same core software throughout. But if you need to integrate a third-party phone in, you absolutely can, as long as it's SIP standards based. All right, you mentioned reusing current equipment. Are you referring to reusing phones or PBX? Do schools usually start by reusing equipment or overhauling all equipment? That is a fantastic question I just got. So yes and yes. Sometimes schools want to, they have the upfront expense. They get it financed, like Todd was saying, like in that situation, the state had earmarked funds, so they did the complete overhaul. Sometimes schools use baby steps. They want to use their legacy PBX. They want to start with SIP trunking to save money on their phone lines. And then that SIP trunk purchase is kind of their step into modern phone systems. And then maybe the next year when they get more funds, they'll upgrade their phone system. Or maybe they want to bridge PBXs together and they're like, we have money in our district to do these 2 schools. They're the high schools. They're important. Then next year we're going to upgrade the middle schools and sync them into the high school. So you can do it a number of ways. And Todd, I'll let you kind of elaborate if there was anything else, like as far as an upgrade plan goes. But I think that kind of.
No, I think you covered it. And if you want to go into it in greater detail, definitely get in touch with Tom.
Yeah.
Because I would like to. We've got 2 minutes here, and I want to not go over too long if possible.
Okay.
But there are so many ways we can, for lack of a better word, cut that pie or whatever term you want to use there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to contact us at any time. I don't have any other questions in here, so my pleasure. Thank you for your time today, Todd and Jessica.
Thanks, guys. I had a great time. See ya.
Bye now.